G'day, mate, and welcome to Friday Facts. Friday Facts number 1 with me, JD, and the wonderful Mojo. How you doing for our first
Hello.
Friday Facts?
Hi.
Hi. It's been a while. It's been a while because we're covering Friday Facts number 1. Yep, we're starting.
Yeah.
We're going to do the whole series, continuous, like start to end as a podcast. What do you reckon?
Yep, sounds good. Just go from 1 to 378.
Yeah. Which is number 1 where they
back.
just finished the 0.7 release 10 years ago today. Well, 10 years ago, 2 days ago. Yep.
Days ago, yes.
Because we've had 10 years of Friday Facts. That's a lot of Friday Facts. That's 520 Friday Facts. I think we're a little bit short because we're on Friday Facts number 378. And
yes.
choo-choo trains.
Because we missed an entire year's worth of Friday Facts.
It's over a year, Mojo. Just over a year.
Yeah, it's maybe a year and a half.
Yeah,
something like that.
It's fine. But now we have trains on another level. Like we have Friday Facts on another level. Yep. So
Who cares about the days? You've got the elevated track.
Yeah, but we've got a Friday Facts by V. Yep. Which they talked about, we went and fixed the trains, and we spoke about those last week. And we decided to change the rail shapes and rail sizes and rail things. So they wanted over or under multi-level crossings, but bridges or tunnels. So they already have experience going under, so why not do it under? And that leads a few problems, which is why they probably didn't suggest to go under. So you can't have curves underground. It would be very hard to put signals underground. If a train runs out of fuel, you can't go underground to fix it. Or maybe you could, and then have to add that.
Manual drive, a very heavy train. That'll fix it.
Well, you'd have to put fuel in the train. So you'd have to walk into the tunnel underground to then put fuel on the train to then get a ride out. But then can we just build a train tunnel under the biter's base and pop up on the other side and just not deal with them? Yeah, that would be a pain in the butt.
Just get a 416-4 or something. That'll clear the train that's...
Just drive it through and just remove the train the other way? Yeah. But yes, if we can walk in a train, therefore the biters and the robots should be able to as well. If the tunnel can have curves, how can you tell which tunnel entrance connects to which exit when looking at it from the outside? This is why underground belts only go in a straight line and they don't curve. Same with underground pipes, because otherwise it gets really confusing, because there are mods that do it, but oh my God, does it get confusing. Tunnels over water don't quite feel right, which is funny because people do say that you use an underground not to go under a patch of water, but go over a patch of water.
It's like the saying that there are more planes in the ocean than submarines in the sky.
Okay, Mojo. Yep.
It's not wrong.
Yep. Okay. Drawing tunnels will be surprisingly difficult, as we need to do some extensive masking. In fact, that Factorio isn't currently capable of, and more problems. So they drawn on the idea of elevated rails. Much more potential. Drawing upper layers certainly won't be easy either. Also, you probably want to boldly see all of your trains their full glory instead of hiding them somewhere in a cellar. I don't know. I've seen some of people's train tracks. There are some people's train tracks that should be in the cellar. So it's a simple idea, right, Mojo? Rail ramp, an elevated rail, and a support. 3 things.
Easy.
Yeah.
Simple.
Ramp, support, elevated rail. It's done. It's done. It's implemented. It's great. We'll have it next week. Yup. So we have elevated rails.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Beautiful elevated rail with springs and everything, and refined concrete and steel. By the looks of it.
I'm hoping the springs move. I'm hoping it has a bit of wobble on it, because they do say we thought about the visual design with Albert and Arendelle. We wanted the ramp to be heavy and industrial, but at the same time not be perfectly stable and rigid. After multiple iterations, we had arrived at this combination of solid concrete base combined with an upper metal structure. And I do want to mention that we can tell from the artwork, I guess, from the metal base, that's refined concrete.
Yes.
Yeah. So, we now have a use for refined concrete, apart from just pasting the whole world with it to run faster.
Apart from painting the world with refined concrete isn't enough already?
No, look, it's not. Okay, refined concrete is an honest status image. Okay, it's very important because refined concrete costs iron and steel. So it is much more expensive. Also, one of the recipes somewhere along the line, you go from having 10 pieces just to 1 piece. So it thoroughly costs a whole lot. And then I've done a number of playthroughs now where we have Tefloncrete, which also requires lube. So now you're adding petroleum products to your concrete, and you go from 10 refined concrete to a single piece of Tefloncrete. Sure, it does have a 200% movement bonus, which means legs suddenly become less useful, but it's very expensive, and it's a status symbol. Yep, the whole map needs to be refined concrete. Yep.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. The concrete base clearly shows where the ramp touches the ground, whilst in contrast, the metal parts has lots of holes, so you can see the entities placed behind the ramp most of the time, because these things are massive. The metal is painted red, mostly the only other red entities in Factorio are related to trains, which now means it's confirmed you should only load and unload a train with long-hand inserters, because then you can get
Makes sense.
twice the amount of...
So pre-version 12,
Yep.
double long inserter used to be or pre-stack inserter, I should say. Double long inserter was the fastest way to load and unload
things. Yep.
trains.
So yes,
so it's not inaccurate.
Yes, it's still used all the time nowadays if you've got a custom train loading from request chests.
Yes,
because you can
that is true.
fit more choices of items in. So yes, we have big, very large elevated rails. The rail ramp is the longest entity of the game at 16 tiles and 4 tiles
chunky,
wide.
Boy.
Yeah, well, Rocket Solo is only 9 now.
Yeah.
So
9
it's
by 9.
massive. So you need to consider where and when to place it, and it can only rotate in 4 directions. So none of this 45-degree stuff, or the
no 45s,
or the other degrees, which will come back.
The in-betweeners.
We're
not going to talk about that.
Later.
We're
Later.
We're going
to cover it really brief later. The rail ramp is and then we have the rail supports. Follow the style of ramp, but with difference, we rotate it in 8 directions, which is sort of funny because it's in a 4x4, which is fine, except when you rotate it to one of the not 90-degree offsets, then it takes up slightly less space, which does bring the question: if you put it down and you rotate it, the hitbox is going to keep changing. So if you put a power pole in one of the corners that appears and disappears, does that mean you just can't rotate it anymore? Or does it rotate and the power pole just does what power poles do, wooden power poles do, and that is crumble and fall whenever anything touches them like a car?
Or, well, you can't do it anymore, but you used to throw them you used to have the ceremonial throwing them into the steam power plant.
Yeah, you can't do that anymore. They now have copper wire in them. They're no longer flammable. Don't ask. Same as wooden boxes that are put together with wood without nails. Are also, has a roughly 4x4. Don't know we did that one. And then we have a wonderful close-up of our elevated rails. Now, Mojo.
Yes.
A couple of important things. You may have noticed there are signals on this.
There is, yes.
Floaty signals.
Well, they got the semi-floating. They've got their own little mechanism to attach to the side.
Yeah, they do. Not disagreeing. We're gonna notice that the chain signal has a different floaty connection point to the main line than the normal full signal.
Yes, it does.
Also,
it's a slightly smaller structure.
Yeah, because it's a slightly smaller signal. That's what she said. Also, you probably I need to go and look at the other images, because it seems that if they're connected to a rail support, they have a different image again. We're going to look at more of them in a second, but also there's a handrail. So the good news is you have a handrail. So, if you jump off the train whilst it's in the air, you can't. Because Dev said no.
Yeah. If it's over water. Only if it's over water.
But you can't walk on elevated rails, so you're going to fall to the ground.
Well, you can't walk on the elevated rails. This has been answered.
Yep.
But you can enter and exit. You just fall onto the ground.
Yep. So the handrails are no good for you, and you phase right through the handrails.
Yes.
Yep. So it's important.
Conversely, the biters can't walk on the handrails either.
That is true. That is true. Which brings us back to the whole tunnel thing, where they said biters would have to walk through the tunnels. Biters don't have to walk through the tunnels because the devs have just decided that the butters can't walk through the tunnels or the bridges, and the players can't walk through the bridges either. Yep, so it's still not going to help you get across that lake unless you're in a train. But yeah, handrails are absolutely useless, and I don't think they're going to keep a train on. Pretty sure a train's going to go right through that. Yep.
It'll keep a train on unless you put on the that mod that launches trains into the air.
Yeah, that'll go right through that handrail. Yep.
Yeah.
So yes, elevator rails can be built between ramps. They're held up by rail supports along the way. Can be constructed above everything else except tall entities. And they've named a rocket silo, a roboport, and a big electric pole with an etc. They didn't say a nuclear reactor. So I want to build elevator rails above my nuclear reactor, because what could go wrong?
That's fine. I mean, it's not like trains can fall off.
Yeah. But they've got handrails. They won't fall off. They have the exact same rail shape as the new ground rails do, and signals can be attached to the elevator rails. There are fences which help visually distinguish the elevator rails from the ground rails, so you can see how they disappear on track crossings. Yeah, I can definitely see, track crossings and crossings of rails in general are going to be,
This picture very much highlights the usefulness of those rails. Yeah, that would get really confusing. I mean, it's an easy junction it's a simple junction. You get more complicated, you're going to get confused.
Oh, we're going to get to more complicated in just a second.
Oh, yeah.
But they do have a T-junction, which is, everybody's built a T-junction, and for some reason this T-junction has a express lane, I guess, around the outside as well. But yeah, this is far higher throughput than what we've had previously. Just because you're removing a lot of intersection points where one train would have to stop or slow down for another. Now they only have to slow down or stop when they're merging back into the main line, I guess. Yeah, back into a single track. So yeah, this has been a requested feature for how long now, Mojo?
11 billion years.
Yeah, roughly, give or take. Yeah, and then we have...
exaggerating a little bit, but it's about right.
Yeah, pretty much. I would take that answer. Yep. And then we have, oh my god, train chaos. With the ramp being long, and since we have two layers, being a fully multi-level junction could get rather large, but the throughput potential is massive. It is worth noting that not just level separation that helps, also the fact we don't need chain signals, so we can shorten the distance between normal rail signals a lot, so we don't need to guarantee there's enough space for a train behind the junction. This is true. And this also leads to train chaos. Okay, I don't know, now we're looking at this image, I don't know if all the red handrails are helping.
Oh, they're better than nothing. So one of the points that came up when I was looking at this last night was that you need a programmable speaker with the Roller Coaster Tycoon's peep scream, and so you trigger the programmable speaker every time a train goes down the slope.
Yeah, you put a signal just beforehand when the train initiates the signal, which is on yellow, I believe. All right.
When it takes it.
Yep. That would be the point where the sound effect plays, and oh my god, that would get very old very quickly. But I can definitely see the appeal for about 5 seconds.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then I'd probably delete it. But yeah,
how about a goose honk?
Oh god. Oh, what do I have to work with? Handrails. I think it adds more confusion because with the raised rails, they have the shadow underneath them.
Yes.
So I don't know if they're super helpful. Apart from the good news is, Mojo, your brown game now has red mixed in with it.
We've been getting more and more red into the brown game as we go along.
Yeah.
The years.
Yeah. Which is just a slightly different shade of brown, right?
Yeah, I mean, brown is just a shade of red.
Exactly my point.
It's a strange color.
Yeah.
It's been studied to death.
Yeah. Now, I do want to point out, because this is something that we don't have a clear answer on. There's a couple of things we don't have clear answers on, but we're getting there one Friday Facts at a time. They have said that obviously elevated rails have the signals attached to the rail point, i.e. you don't need to have physical ground underneath them because they go over the water. Yep, they go over the water. But we do have one rail signal here in the middle that's placed on what looks to be landfill beside the train tracks.
That's landfill, yes.
Yeah. But if we can attach a rail signal to a rail point in the air, then in theory you should be able to attach a rail signal to a piece of rail on the ground using the same complicated Factorio code, because we mentioned last week, does that mean if rail signals still need to be physically attached and have a space between it beside a rail or not? And
I haven't conclusively answered that.
It hasn't been conclusively answered. It's up in the air. Because definitely for elevated rails, the answer is no. It doesn't need a physical piece of land there. It just directly attaches the rail. So in theory, possibly, maybe.
My theory is that because the fundamental rules aren't changing, so you still need landfill as you always have.
But the fundamental rules are changing because we're changing the angles of the rails in version 1.2 2.0 DLC expansion pack.
Yes.
So
changing that.
If we are changing that fundamental rule for version 2.1...
That's just the angle. That's not how the signal appears in the world.
But true. But we're changing one thing that affects all of rails. So if we're changing one thing that affects all of rails and we're having, our compatibility version from 2 to 2.1, does that mean why not just do this other change as well? So then elevated rails and normal rails have the same consistency. That's the point I'm trying to get to. We're trying to have consistency between elevated and non-elevated. And I really would like just to not have to have physical land beside rails. It also means that those intersections and the things we were talking about last week that you couldn't signal, you could now signal, because you don't need a gap between the rails to physically put a signal down because it's now part of the rail.
These all sound like right-hand drive problems.
They are right-hand drive problems. Don't get me wrong. All right. Yes. Also, we should definitely point out the loading and unloading. So loading and unloading
You can tell the transport type open TTD player in V coming through here.
Oh yeah, 100%.
As soon as I saw this, that's a TTD thing.
100%. But it is so much more compact. It's so much higher throughput. Way less chain signals. Far less chain signals, which is great. Also, the top train and the bottom train change colors.
Yes.
This is important.
Goes up, the top one changes from blue to orange.
Orange, brown.
Or brown.
It's another brownish color, be it red, orange, or brown. Yep. And the bottom one changes from blue to white.
It changes to white. That's not brown. I suppose it's washed out brown.
Oh boy. So yes.
Before it rusted.
It rusted to blue in Mojo's world. So it means a couple of important things. One, I'm assuming as we have like full conditions, empty conditions, we're also going to have a new condition like change train color to color. As a condition?
My theory is that there's going to be an option to change to the target train stops color.
Why limit it to target train stops color? Why not just change color to...
It could be target train stop color or any color.
Yeah, and your standard RGB values. Yeah,
probably both.
I'm expecting us just to have a free RGB value, open it up. Sure, they might link it to other train stations, etc., and you can do that change as well. But the white train changes very quickly, changes color very quickly, whereas the brown train seems to take a while to change. So I don't know. And I wonder if it also means you can say, hey, the color of your cargo, just change to that color. Which would, again, be interesting, because a lot of people spend a lot of time color coding their trains, and frankly, I just can't be bothered. They're all red. They can stay red. I have a black train for the one that goes and shoots things, and that's about it. Yeah.
But it turns white when it's out of ammo. It needs to retreat.
Maybe. Pulls up the white flag, turns tail, and runs. Yes. But I'm also wondering if we've had this change, and this is a future Friday fact. I'm predicting a future Friday facts. I think we're going to have the Mojo wish list where we can have a train circuit, list.
Majigga.
Yeah, train to Majigga thing, all right? Where you can have a train list and say, go to A, pick up iron, go to B, go to iron unload, and just set 10 trains to that list. And then if you update it to go from iron to iron 2 as well, then the same 10 trains are on the same list or on the same route. You don't have to manually change every one of them. Because again, there's a lot of open transport tycoon feels in the train logistics system of Factorio, and I'm pretty sure that's a feature in Open Transport Tycoon for a while now, right?
I don't know. I haven't played it in a long time.
I think it would be.
It hasn't really changed in a long time either. It hasn't really changed since like 2010.
I'm feeling it was a train route. You just add 10 trains to it. Whatever. I'm hoping it's added. All right. Yes. So then we have landfill and waterfill, I guess. So yes,
Not landfill.
Not landfill.
Or it's water before and after landfilling.
Sure. Before and after, where the legs get slightly longer because they go under the water.
And the fish gets murdered.
Yeah, because we don't have landfish anymore. So yes, there's a very special patch that murders under that draws under the train, which is visible only in places where the ramps or supports touch water. So yes, we can definitely build these at sea, which is going to be great until all water goes green. And then we have a perfect example of, oh my god, who did this? In case you decide to route your rails through a lake, because why not? Islands can become opportunities for multi-level crossings, because we only have a ground level and upper level. There's no intermediate multiple levels. Yes. And the very important fact I need to share with you, Mojo, because this is the Friday Facts, is right here we have a bunch of accumulators that look like they're charging. Is that the charge? That's the charge, is it not?
It's charge or discharge.
It's one of the two.
One of the two.
But we have a single substation powering a single radar, and it has no external power sources. So I'm assuming, okay, because this is how real life works, that when you take a big chunk of iron and you move it past a coil of copper wire, you induce a magnetic field, which induces electrons, which then creates power. And we have
moving past the accumulators at high speed, so they accumulate charge, you say?
Yeah. The big chunk of iron being the train is accumulating charge in the accumulators, which is then powering the radar. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Sounds reasonable.
It is not a perpetual motion machine because the trains are not in perpetual motion. More importantly, they're powered by nuclear fuel or rocket fuel or coal or possibly by wood.
It's taking the energy from the train, so it's not perpetual motion.
Yep.
The energy's coming from somewhere.
But we've been told that everything's been captured in-game, so this has to be a legitimate screenshot, and this is exactly how it must be done.
It must be how it works.
Not via dev cheats. All right. So then, build something elevated can be done with a rail planner. Either you can press a keyboard shortcut to switch the destination layer, or you can start the rail planner on a ramp support, or elevated rail. Any guesses what the keyboard shortcut would be?
Don't know.
F, because I've got to...
Maybe it. Oh,
get over that item. It's got to be F. F, because I've got to...
Or G.
Get over that item. No, G for underground. It's not underground. We said we're going above.
F and G. F up, G down.
What? It's a toggle. F up to F down. To F, yeah, okay, yeah.
Yes.
L? Yeah.
Logistics. Robo logistics.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be that.
But one day, Kovarex said, why doesn't the rail planner just snap to rail you're pointing at?
It's a question that we've asked for many years.
Many years. Yes. And now it does, thankfully.
So now it does, and which makes the rail planner 10,000 times less annoying, hopefully.
Much less annoying, but I still wonder. See, he mentions the word snap, which means in theory it should have sort of like a magnetic grip to it a little bit, so you should not have that situation where the mouse moves just one pixel and we get the loop-de-loops. Because now we
might get the loop-de-loops with the long runs, but it means that you snap it to it and it might actually do what you intend.
In the half a second between you thinking about clicking the button and actually clicking the button?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, also turning down your mouse speed might help with that.
It's not that high. Not that high. It's not that high to start with. It's just that last second wobble when I'm thinking about pressing the button. Yep. Because, yes, we have multiple degrees now, and now the rail planner is so much smarter, and oh my god. We can build over the factory.
Yes, most of the factory. You can't build over the big poles and the other things they mentioned.
But the rail planner is smarter now. We can just apply spaghetti and it will work it out for us. We already have we already have that feature with underground belts. Do you remember how bad the spaghetti got? Because now you can just drag a belt, and even if you don't need to have 6 undergrounds in a row, because there's another single belt in the way or a rock or something, it'd just place it because that's the way it works. So you'd end up with all these little undergrounds going under one tile, whereas you could just have a gap and have an underground up and an underground down and so on and so forth. but the underground draggy belt thing doesn't do that for you. So, yeah, yeah, this is going to be a nightmare.
At least you can drive elevator rails over cliffs.
You can, yes. And
the one thing I
assemblers.
notice here is that there's like a little bit of a cliff. I mean, it is actually avoiding the cliff ends, but you could drive the because the cliff explosives are on another world now. You have to go to the second planet, so you can use the elevator rails to go over cliffs.
You know what? You can't.
You can't?
No, we're going to get to the next screenshot in 1 second, but I do notice they're making quality modules here. Just want to point that out. Yeah, not quality lasers, just quality modules. And quality speeds.
Why would you make quality modules?
Quality prods. Why not make qualities? Anyway, yes, so the rail planner can offer make a fine connection wouldn't even expect to be possible. We can memorize it and play with, which can lead to, oh my god, spaghetti. Oh boy.
It's mesmerizing. It reminds, these pictures, and the one with the junction on the lake reminds me of the AI in the original Transport Tycoon Deluxe, where it would just build single, point-to-point train networks and just completely intertwine them with each other, like this.
Yeah, it would. But, yeah, I'm looking at this, and apart from the giant raised...
was it Locomotion? The one that Chris Sawyer made in the early 2000s. It was also like that.
I think it was Locomotive, one of the two.
Something like that.
He's now using the power of Google. But
Locomotion.
The one we've got here with all the spaghetti of trains upper and lower, none of them are going over cliffs.
That doesn't mean it won't go over cliffs.
I'm looking at the giant belt that comes in on the left and spirals down and then goes back up. I feel like that could have probably taken a more direct route and gone over cliffs, but didn't, because cliffs are in the way. I'm pretty sure cliffs are going to be a problem. I'm pretty sure there's not going to be going over any cliffs. Yeah. Okay, cliffs just got more annoying. We're just going to turn them off. It's fine.
I don't see how it could be aware of cliffs.
Hang on, Mojo.
Yes.
I don't see how
I see
should interfere with cliffs, but...
You can actually see it going over a cliff.
Where?
So look at the middle, and then a little bit to the left. There's a vertical rail that curves across, and it's going over a cliff.
Okay, fine. Because I was about to point out that we had nuclear weapons that couldn't destroy cliffs for over a year. All right, conclusion. Allowing trains to cross paths on different levels has been one of the most requested features for a long time. Yes, it has.
A very long time.
We pulled it out in the pre-post Friday facts that go up on my secondary channel. That it had been requested of Kovarex 6 years ago. And he said, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. 6 years ago.
Yes.
He replied and said it was a good idea 6 years ago. We always felt it made perfect sense, but trains in Factorio would rarely ever get into serious enough throughput issues to justify adding elevated routes. Mojo, do you agree with that statement?
Not really.
Yeah, I've had situations where...
There have been times where I really, really needed them.
Yeah, I had throughput issues on trains more than once. Yeah. The expansion changed the landscape quite a bit. If we expect players to generally build larger factories than in the base game, train throughput could become an issue. And since you're expected to travel away from a home planet, having a train system that doesn't deadlock would be more important than ever before. You should definitely... Albert wrote this? V wrote this? Who wrote this? V wrote this. V you should grab Mojo's blueprints. If you use Mojo's blueprints, they never deadlock, providing you use them correctly. I can't account for user error, but Mojo's blueprints.
I can't account for user error either, but most of the time they don't deadlock.
Yeah. You just get Mojo's blueprints. I'm waiting for the expansion to come out, and I'm giving Mojo all of 3 hours to have blueprints ready for me. Okay, that's all the time he gets.
Boy. I'm going to have to pre-prepare a new map.
Yeah, I'm also waiting for a few modders to make, because we're going to have elevator rails now. I want a loop-to-loop, and I also want a corkscrew. And then we can have the roller coaster tycoon sound. All right, it's not hard to guess. Implementers will require a lot of time. Working on expansion behind closed doors allowed us some breathing room, and we can make bigger experiments. Between Boss Kid with the mechanical and Pasilla with the drawing code, just the programming took a few months. On the graphics side, we could reuse a lot of the initial Blender setup from the rework of the ground rails, but didn't get us very far. The ramps were simply large objects, while the rail supports have a hive of optical hacks as they need to fit their collision boxes. Both the ramp and the supports were reworked multiple times, finding that the results would look and function well. Especially because the elevated rail fences required sprite count grew very rapidly. It made me use all the tricks in our Blender book and even added a completely new Blender Python tools that mostly help with organizing and rendering large amounts of outputs. I finally got the final iteration about 90% completion, and then it just became too much. I know that feeling. You get to 90%, like, I quit, I'm done. Yeah.
The old 80-20 rule.
Yep. Jersey already had experience with the round graphics. We covered that in the previous Friday Facts. So I'd asked him to help me by finishing the last details and texturing, and then he just handled all the signals and remnants again. Oh, I forgot about remnants. They're going to be interesting.
Yes. We haven't even seen remnants.
No. Well, we haven't for these rails. We did see some the other week. Yeah. It's hard to overstate how much bravery and mental fortitude was required to just jump into the Blender file of the elevator rails. I'd like to thank him for that again. You can probably see from the above images he did excellently. I can agree. They look awesome.
It's a machine, because he did the from last week I learned that he did all the
final touches on the rail last time as well.
The difficult stuff.
Yeah.
As well. And that was what, 6 months, 9 months?
Something like that. Yep.
Redoing.
Yep. Between Arundel on concept art and me most of the 3D process, Jersey on finishing together with Albert on re-evaluating multiple major iterations. The graphics took about 9 months to make. Perhaps we could have taken some simplified route to try and make tunnels work, but we believe the elevator rails offer far better gameplay beyond comparison. Yet again, we confidently say that properly focusing on some features in the expansion rather than trying to shove more things into 1.0 was a very good decision. I can agree. This is the first one that I'm really excited to play with.
Oh, yeah.
The other things are like, okay, I could take it or leave it or nice to have, whatever. Actually, the whole robots working a little bit smarter.
Well, the smarter bots is definitely good.
It's definitely good, but it's not make or break.
It's not fundamentally game changing.
And then I literally, after saying that on that Friday Facts, I played C-Block again, where I had stupid bots. And I've said multiple times I could do with smarter robots. Yeah. I just...
The mistake was playing C-Block.
Yeah, it was. All the elevator rails are only available with the expansion executable. Their technology can be researched using production science packs without the need to go to space or any other planet. So we've confirmed that it's production science we can do on Navis.
Yes, and it means that you will need to do them to jump cliffs. Because cliff explosives we know is on
another one. Yeah. But I thought they already said that the science packs are on different... Oh, no, because it's new colours of science packs.
Yeah, it's new colours of science packs.
It's the strawberry and the orange mango and the other one, the watermelon. Yeah. Elevator rails will be one of the standalone... Oh, yes, this is the other one. Elevator rails will be one of the
really interesting
standalone official mods next to Quality and Space Age. So when the expansion 1.2, 2.0 DLC comes out, and you upgrade or choose to purchase it, so you're going to have a Space Age mod that will be
that sits alongside base game.
Yep, that will give you the Space Age content. Then you're going to have the Quality mod, which will give you the quality content, or the lack of quality content, all depends on how you took that particular Friday Facts and how many legendaries you want to shove in your back pocket.
It's also interesting to note that is its own separate self-contained mod.
Yeah, so it's going to be... that's the other thing. So with that and also the elevator rails, it means you could choose to play Space Age without quality and without elevator rails because you hate yourself. Yes. Or with quality and without elevator rails because you hate yourself. Yeah.
You could play base game without Space Age and with elevator rails.
That's true. You could also play base game with quality. Yep. So you could
play space exploration with base game and quality.
Because that's a completely different mod. Yes. So that means, yes, you have a lot more options. So we now have at least confirmed 3 official mods coming out with the expansion / DLC / whatever. Now, I've said it before, and I'm going to mention it once more. We've mentioned that previously, over the 2-year gap that we've had in Friday Facts, that I thought it was going to be very, very difficult for a lot of things to exist as part of the expansion that couldn't already be done as a mod. And we have compared Space Age to Space Exploration more than once, but I can definitely say elevated rails is something that we've got a member of the community, Muppet, who has tried to not go elevated. He went tunnels, which is the easier approach in my opinion, and he couldn't get it to happen. It wouldn't happen.
Ran into the same edge case problems that they ran into.
It worked.
I remember right?
It worked, but he could only go under and back up. There were no curving. Signals were a little bit of an issue. If a train runs out of fuel, that sounds like a user error problem. There was a lot of edge cases he just couldn't account for. And with API updates, etc., he could have maybe fixed those issues if the devs added that to the base game. But as they control the base game, then it's just not going to happen. So yeah, this is going to be one of those ones. The only way you're going to get it is if you grab the expansion. So that's an interesting change. Also, we need to very quickly address from last week the train tracks. Yes.
Train trucks?
Train tracks. Yep. Because none of these are 22.5 degrees.
Yes.
It turns out, because this goes up 5 tiles and across 1 tile, and then this goes up 4 tiles and across 3 tiles, and that does not equal that. So what are they, Mojo?
26.6 and 18.4.
Yeah, and it's a half of something?
The tangent of a half.
Yeah.
Apparently. I'm not entirely sure where Bosca gets that number from. I'm sure if I sat down and thought about it, I'd figure it out.
Yes, it means that the tracks are slightly different. Yeah, compared to the original. Yeah. Also means that one half is slightly different than the other half, which also explains, we're looking at the one with the multiple tracks around a circle. The 2 in the bottom, well, the 3 bottom right, yeah, you can see that some of them look like they're slightly different lengths, because they technically are.
Yeah.
Because we've got 2 different angles we're dealing with. Yeah.
Going by eye, it looked like the ones from vertical are 18 degrees from vertical, and then the tracks from horizontal are 26 degrees from horizontal.
Yeah, sure. That's above.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just going to agree with you.
Purely by eye. I haven't confirmed that yet.
Yep. We do have a couple of other things. Just quick FAQs on elevator rails. So, biters can't walk on elevator rails? Nope. Players can't walk on elevator rails? Nope. Can anything other than rolling stock walk on elevator rails? No. What happens if the player tries to get out of a train or elevator rail? He falls to the ground. Hopefully you break both your shins on the way through. What happens if
damage mod?
Yep. What happens if there is no ground? They can't leave the train. So that means no drowning, which is probably a bonus.
No being trapped on water if you run out of jetpack, like with the jetpack mod.
Yep. What happens if the train is out of fuel? Trains can be pushed painfully slowly by the player if the train is out of fuel now. So that's a nice feature.
Now, is that by a player in another train because they can't walk on track?
Well, if you can get in a train, you can just press the GHF button, whatever it is, to connect the rolling stock together.
Yeah.
And then it becomes...
Just join it and then push it that way.
Yeah. So I'm imagining if a train...
So if you're in the loco, does that mean it just moves slowly if you push the forward button?
Or maybe... Okay. So imagine if a train runs out of fuel on a normal piece of track, maybe you can just push a train by walking up behind it and pressing the whichever direction to make the train work. Good luck if you're on the 18.4 or 22.6 degree, 26.4 degree thingy bob. Or maybe if you get into a loco or a wagon, you can then painfully get it to move by Flintstone style. I don't know.
I imagine it's Flintstoning the train. Have to be in there.
Yeah, well, this is all from the Factorio devs. It's the only information we've got because there's been a lot of questions about elevator rails. We have how long is the max distance between rail pillars? Is 20 tiles in a straight line or every 90 degrees angle? And I'm guarantee you that if they've accounted for the 18 point whatever plus 18 plus what 18, but it finally gets you to 90. even if you snake the rail back and forth. Yep. Can you deconstruct a pillar that's currently supporting rails? Yes, the deconstruction starts with the rails. The pillar is the last to deconstruct. Can robots deconstruct elevated rails? Yes! And they're smart enough to do it in the right order, which is surprising.
Hooray.
But then they have got slightly smarter since, the other Friday Facts. Yes. Can you change levels in the rail planner? That was already asked in the Friday Facts. Yes.
It was, yes.
What happens if the pillar is destroyed? The supported elevated rails and rolling stock are destroyed as well. So if you build elevated rails over your base and biters eat the supports, well, not only are you cleaning up dead assemblers and dead belts and dead inserters, but you're now cleaning up dead train tracks and possibly dead trains from the middle of your production line. Yeah, biters got worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to be choosy about using elevated rails in biter territory.
Yeah. So
That can do some damage.
That's a change. Okay. So yeah. All right. I think that's it for the Friday Facts. Liz, you got something else? Okay. Well, the ghost of destroyed elevator rails is going to suck. Oh yeah. Trains disappearing is going to suck. If you have biters, don't invite the biters into your base. All right, we're gonna leave the Friday Facts here. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Do hope you've enjoyed. Come back next week for more Friday Fact goodness. Now it's gonna be regularly, and Mojo predictions for next week. Quickly.
So just before this one came out, I was like, maybe it's the train scheduling stuff, and you know how they're talking about new UI stuff.
Yep.
And then I was like, you know what? They'll probably just throw in something completely left field.
Yep.
So I don't even know anymore.
I'm going. Yep.
Maybe we will find out about the train changing color thing.
I think they're going to leave it.
The UI stuff.
I think they're going to leave it. I think we're going to have not train stuff. I think next week is going to be something entirely unrelated. I want to say it's like factory building something. Okay. I'm still hoping it's biters. I'm really secretly hoping we find out about biters.
I want to know about the biters.
But I think it's going to be some factory stuff. So new machine X. Yeah, whatever that happens to be. But I think that's where we're going to leave it. Anyway, as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Do hope you've enjoyed. We'll see you in the next video. All right, bye.
Bye.